Hello, it's good to see you again. It's Sun, and welcome back to the course of Business Meeting and Negotiation Skill of the Distance Learning course by Hoa Sen University. So today we embark on chapter number 10 of our negotiation course, focusing on distributive negotiation. So this chapter is crucial for understanding a fundamental aspect of negotiation that often comes into place in competitive scenario. So just imagine you are in a negotiation scenario. How important is it for you to secure a better deal than your counterpart? Would you like to gain more than what you or your opponent are getting? Right, so if you would like to gain more benefit, you should know how to increase the chance to win in the negotiation. You also know when to make the concessions, and once you win the negotiation, do you actually know how to save your opponent's face? So in today's lesson on distributive negotiation, we're going to cover 3 critical objectives. The first one is the bargaining zone. So we discuss how to determine this zone and how its impact on your negotiation strategy. And for number 2, we call win-lose strategy. So we will explore the strategy that are typically used in a win-lose scenario, where one party gains is another party loss. Lastly, we talk about saving face strategy. In negotiation, it's not just about winning or losing, but also about maintaining respect and dignity. So we look at how these strategies help preserve relationship even when the negotiation is tough. So now we will begin our discussion with an overview of negotiation. So this will set the foundation for everything we will cover in this chapter. So what is bargaining zone? Do you know? So the bargaining zone, also known as Zone of Possible Agreement, ZOPA, Z-O-P-A. So it's the range within which a deal can be made between 2 parties. It's bounded by the reservation point of both the buyer and the seller. The closer you are close to the other party reservation point, the more likely you are to reach an agreement that both sides will find acceptable. So in some negotiation, you find that there are a positive bargaining zone. So this occurs when the buyer maximum price exceeds the seller minimum acceptable price. So this positive overlap between the reservation points means there's a higher likelihood of finding a deal that both sides will accept. On the other hand, a negative bargaining zone presents a more challenging scenario. So this happens when the buyer maximum price is lower than the seller minimum acceptable price. So now, let's dive into the concept of bargaining surplus. So which is the amount between 2 reservation points. For example, here, we have a flat seller and a buyer. You, right? So the seller is willing to sell the flat for anywhere between $65 to $90. On the other hand, as the buyer, you are willing to pay between $60 and $85. So the bargaining surplus is the overlap between these 2 ranges where a deal could be made. How much is it? So the bargaining surplus here is $20, which is the difference between 85 and 65. Now that we have to identify the bargaining surplus, now we have to find out the settlement point or the middle point. So between the seller and the buyer ranges. Here, the seller range starts at $65 and the buyer range goes up to $98. The settlement point, or the most likely point where both parties might agree, can be calculated by finding the midpoint between these 2 values. So this $75 is a fair settlement that both parties might agree upon. Sitting right in the middle of the bargaining zone is a point where both the buyer and the seller are likely to find a common ground. making it the optimal solution in this negotiation. Great. Now that we established the settlement, right? So as the $75. So let's break down the bargaining surplus for both the buyer and the seller. So as you can see from the slide here, both seller and surplus and buyer surplus are the differences between reservation point and the settlement. So that's why the answer is $10. So meaning each party benefits equally from the negotiation. So now we just have learned the first section of chapter 10 with the bargaining zone, or we call ZOPA. So in the next video, we will know about 5 basic strategies that increase the chance you will obtain a favorable benefit.